So I kind of want to go off just the top here. This is going to be a chill episode. I streamed the entirety of Dawn of Sorrow, and I got to the end and I just kind of like gave up from trying to beat that final boss. Like I spent, I don't know, 30, 40 times. It's like, it was very difficult. So I just kind of want to talk about the game up until that point, and I really had a great time. So if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, please. Difficult video game. I don't know how people played that thing on the DS without damaging their hands and getting like crab hands. like that little DS and then with the little touchscreen controls and just kind of button mashing and pressing. Like that B button must have been destroyed on those DS's back in the day. I'm serious too. The motion controls, I might as well get into it real quick. Not the motion controls, I always call them motion controls. It's the touchscreen controls. Those things are trash in this game. Like the seals, they did a good job by adding in, you know, button prompts for it, but they're still trash. Like it's still annoying. And then there's an ice sequence to unlock part of the level, part of the map pretty early on, where you have to break through all these things, and it's not like prevalent through the entire game, but that one sequence I was furious because you have to like use the R button or the R stick to maneuver the thing and then press like one of the buttons, that's the R1 or L1 or whatever, I think it's L1, and in order to destroy some of the ice. But like to move it, it's super laggy and it just was slow, and I did not enjoy doing it at all, and I thought that it took away from the immersion and from the style of game that it should have been. It just didn't feel right. It felt shoehorned in, and it detracted from the quality of the game, in my opinion. I know some people probably love it. Some people think, you know, it's way better than having the touch screen, like actual touch screen, which I know you can't, you know, have on this, but you can if you play it portable. But anyways, I was not a fan of that stuff. I would have been happier if they just removed it. But this game, the story is fun, it's enjoyable, the characters are relatable. There is a lot that they throw at you too, like combat wise and like equipment wise, because at first it gets kind of overwhelming and daunting when you realize that you have like 3 slots, and then pretty soon in the game you have another like you can switch into another like build, I guess. So you have 2 sets of 3 souls that you can equip, so that's 6 total souls, plus you have 3 sets of equipment that is your weapon, armor, and then like a trinket, and so there's 6 total of those also. So it ends up feeling like you have 2 separate builds while you're playing that you can swap to at any time, and then you always want to keep a couple of the unlocks that you get as, you know, traversal items equipped in those souls slots. So it ends up feeling like you're going into the menu quite a bit, where a realization that I had while I was playing midway through the game was that some of these traversal things, like turning into a bat, should have just been delegated to button prompts at all times, not simply using a soul in order to do it, because that takes away from your ability to do damage with other souls that you would normally have equipped. So that was just something that I was thinking about. I was like, I would just want to have the souls that I have already equipped and be able to turn into a bat to traverse this stuff. Like, they actually have an item menu for abilities that you can toggle on and off below it, and then they still use some of these things, like the Puppet Master. I hated the fact that that was delegated to a soul, where it wasn't just an ability that you could, you know, press a combination of buttons up plus like L1 or something, and then it would have been, you know, Puppet Master. Because it's not like it does damage, it was just like simply traversal. But anyways, that's kind of a niche thing to you know, go off on and complain about, but it was just something that would have changed kind of the quality of life and made it a little more easy to maneuver and not go through the menu screen so much. But the story was really enjoyable. It's relatively basic, but there's a lot of characters in here and they introduced them all really, really quickly. So it's like, what? Who is this guy? I don't remember. And I didn't play the first one, Aria of Sorrow, so I'm not familiar with Soma and stuff as much because I haven't played an entire game of his story. But the dude's cool. His chick's cool, Mina, and then the other lady in there is cool, and then the random armsman, the guy who sells you this stuff, he's nice. They all complement each other very well, and it's a very diverse cast with Julius Belmont also, and then the bad few people that you run into, and then the bosses are really, really well designed and amazing in this game. They're difficult to like understand at first, you know, and then you get comfortable with the pattern and you get it down. You could try again. They're generous with the save points before the bosses, so you can save, and then also this collection has save states, so you can save, you know, prior to the entering in, so you don't have to do the seal a whole bunch of times like I found on my stream. It was like, well, I'll just save here and then go, and then towards the really back end of trying to get the good ending in this game, I was like saving in the middle of the battle because I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to do this. Like, I'm going to spend hours trying. So that's another thing that I kind of would like to discuss, is simply the length of the game, where it's back end heavy. So like, it'll take you, you know, 12 hours to get to the last 5% of the game. And then if you want the good ending, that last 5% will take you longer. Like, if you're not that skilled, if you just pick up like a casual, I'm a casual in this game. I'm not a Castlevania like genre expert, like, or a Metroidvania genre expert, like, you know, the modern Castlevania games, more modern, still retro, but the open world-esque Castlevania games, it's difficult to explain, but the difficulty ramps up really hard, and then it becomes pattern recognition, management of your items, like usable items like potions, and then at some point you kind of get locked off where you can't really travel because there's no teleportation thing. So if you use your potions prior to getting to the bosses, you're not going to have any for the boss, and you're going to be stuck kind of at the end of the game trying to fight your way back through what you just fought in order to get out, to get more potions and things like that. That didn't happen to me on stream, but I could have totally seen it happen. But I really think that game gets really difficult if you want the good ending. So like, to actually unlock like Alucard or Belmont to play as. And overall, the last part of the game gets significantly more difficult and more enemy heavy and more variety of enemies in the same room that are just trying to like crush you, which, you know, that's part of video games, is having the ending be more difficult. A skill check, and I didn't pass the skill check in this game. So the beginning part is an absolute masterpiece. The 95% of the game is an absolute masterpiece. I'm sure the last 5% is a masterpiece when I take the time, you know, an extra like 20 hours to really, really understand and to fight each enemy over and over and get their patterns down, and then go into the bosses and do like the boss rush mode and like really, really study these final like 3 bosses. They threw 3 bosses at the end after the final boss for like the bad ending, like if you didn't know what you were doing. So like, if you want the good ending, you have to fight another like 3+ bosses, and it just got like, I saw the ending in sight and then I just got like impatient. But this isn't about me not completing, it's just me trying to explain the beginning part of the game flows very well. You're unlocking elements and you're getting new weapons and new souls from these enemies. Every time you defeat them, you're getting new souls. You're unlocking new aspects to the game to open it up and for you to kind of explore and get different places and unlock the map. And it feels rewarding and it feels exciting and it feels brand new. And it's hard to explain how it kind of flows. And I did my share of wandering where it was like, I don't know where to go next. I don't feel like looking up a guide. So there are certain aspects of this game where they don't tell you where to go, or they'll like allude to it, or you're supposed to remember like, well, when you see little puppets outside of one of these rooms, you're going to need to be able to throw the puppets through once you unlock that puppet master ability. And it's like, well, I can't remember where those were. And I swear I saw them like 10 times before I got the puppet master thing. But then I go back when I get it and it's like, well, there was only like one door with that. It's like, I must have passed by that 10 times thinking that that's what it was. So I was having some difficulty with traversal and knowing where to go once I unlocked a certain ability and a certain soul. And then there are gates later on where you need specific souls from enemies in order to progress through a room in order to get the thing needed to have the good enemy. So it's like collecting souls is actually mandatory in certain aspects of this game where it's only, I think, total of like, there's 3 in a row in one room, and then there's another room where you need, I think it's 2. So there's like a total of 6 souls that you absolutely have to get from certain enemies if you want to like 100% the game. But I love the combat. I love this video game. I was very frustrated, and it was a major skill check for me for my abilities in video games. But yeah, Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, really good video game, really fun, well designed. It drags on at the end a little bit, but it is a masterpiece up until the last 5%. So yeah, thanks for tuning in.